back to the channel. My name is Brian Kingsbury. Today we're going to do another Brian Reads the News segment. This one is coming to us from NFL.com. It's Charles Davis 2025 NFL mock draft. He's picking number 1 QBs Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward, and Jackson Dart, expected to go 1, 2, 3 according to Charles Davis. Let's take a quick look at the rest of his picks to see what he is predicting. Right, it says here, my first mock of this draft cycle comes at an interesting time. We just completed the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine, and now we're hurtling towards the start of free agency. Prospect stock and team needs remain fluid, a lot of moving parts, but one thing that will remain the same in this simulation is the draft order, as I'm not including any trade projections in my first go around. That's not to say this mock lacks spice. I have a quarterbacks flying off the board, and I'm giving the reigning offensive rookie of the year Commanders QB Jayden Daniels his second gift of this month. But enough preamble, let's get to it. Here is my initial forecast for round 1 in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Alright, so there you have it. From my understanding, this is the predictions of Charles Davis, an NFL media analyst. There you see him there. This was published March 5th, 2025, so it is recent. First on the board with the number 1 pick is the Tennessee Titans. It says here, Tennessee has all the options with the number 1 overall pick. In this scenario, second-year head coach Brian Callahan channels his Cincinnati days, seeing in Sanders some of the same qualities Joe Burrow possesses. So he's got Shedeur Sanders from Colorado, the quarterback from Colorado. Deion's kid, he's a senior over there. He's picking him to go number 1 to the Tennessee Titans. Picking number 2 in the draft are the Cleveland Browns. It looks like he's got Cam Ward, the Miami quarterback. It says here, Ward has been on quite the upward trajectory, going from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami. And the quarterback-starved Browns bank on that continuing in Cleveland. With the number 3 pick in the NFL draft, it goes to the New York Giants. They're predicting it's going to be Jackson Dart, the quarterback out of Mississippi. The last time the Giants went all in on a QB from Ole Miss, it worked out pretty well. I know people have not been projecting Dart to go this high, but New York has a screaming need at the position. After passing on to Michael Penix Jr. and J.J. McCarthy and Bo Nix in last year's draft, the G-men might not feel like they can sit back and wait this time around. With the number 4 pick in the draft, it's going to the New England Patriots. The prediction here is that they're going to take Penn State edge Abdul Carter. The Patriots need blockers and weapons on offense to help second-year QB Drake May, but they just cannot pass on an edge rusher many have as the top prospect in the entire draft class. At number 5, the 5th pick goes to the Jacksonville Jaguars. They're predicting here that it's going to be Travis Hunter, the Colorado wide receiver and cornerback, coming out his junior year. The Jaguars could use Hunter full-time on either side of the ball. How would they ultimately decide to deploy him? I'm guessing it'd be primarily on the offense first. The number 6 pick in the draft goes to the Las Vegas Raiders. They're saying here it's going to be Michigan defensive tackle junior Mason Graham. Says here new head coach Pete Carroll would be exuberant about this pick. Graham is a force who can pair with Christian Wilkins on the interior, while freshly paid edge rusher Max Crosby hunts on the outside. So they're hoping to add one here. Mason Graham out of Michigan. With the number 7 pick, it's going to go to the New York Jets. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Will Campbell, the LSU offensive lineman. Leading up to the 2024 draft, there was plenty of chatter that the Jets could take tight end Brock Bowers with their top selection, but they opted for offensive tackle Olu Fashanu. Now Tyler Warren is available. The Jets could pounce on the tight end, but I see them once again opting for the bookend blocker. Campbell would significantly improve Gangrene's offensive line from the right tackle position, giving the team a talented young set of offensive to build around. With the 8th pick in the draft going to the Carolina Panthers. Says here they're predicting it's going to go to Jalen Walker, the edge out of Georgia. Carolina traded away 2-time Pro Bowler Brian Burns last March and finished the 2024 season tied for 29th in sacks. The Panthers need Walker to be their next Burns. The 9th pick in the draft goes to the New Orleans Saints. Says here they're expecting it to go to Mikael Williams, the Georgia edge here. The Saints could definitely take a top cornerback here, but in this rundown, new head coach Kalen Moore happily gets some help up front for Cam Jordan, the 8-time Pro Bowler who turns 36 this summer. The number 10 pick in the draft goes to the Chicago Bears. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Kelvin Banks Jr., the Texas offensive lineman. The Bears are already getting aggressive in the rebuilding of their offensive line, and that work continues in the draft. With Banks at left tackle and the 2023 first-round pick Darnell Wright at right tackle, they have their bookends on the O-line for the next decade. With the number 11 pick in the draft going to the San Francisco 49ers. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Mike Green out of Marshall and edge. Big production at Marshall combined with excellent work during Senior Bowl practices lands Green with the Niners, who welcome back Robert Saleh as their DC defensive coordinator. The number 12 pick in the draft goes to the Dallas Cowboys. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Ashton Jeanty, Boise State running back junior. The Cowboys selected Ezekiel Elliott in the top half of round 1 in 2016, and he was an immediate force. History repeats itself here. The number 13 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Miami Dolphins. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Armand Membo, a Missouri offensive lineman. Says here highly thought of prior to the NFL scouting combine. Membo is now in consideration to be the first offensive lineman selected following a very strong showing in Indy. He would be a day one starter for the Dolphins. He could begin his career at guard in Miami, but he'd eventually be an offensive tackle. The number 14 pick in the draft goes to the Indianapolis Colts. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Tyler Warren, a tight end out of Penn State. Truly a do-it-all type of player and exactly what QB Anthony Richardson needs to speed up his development as QB1 for the Colts. The number 15 pick goes to the Atlanta Falcons. Says here they're predicting the Falcons will pick Will Johnson, a Michigan cornerback. Every year I predict the Falcons will take an edge rusher in round 1. I'm finally getting the message that prediction is ill-fated. So Atlanta drafts a corner in this scenario. Johnson pairs well with AJ Terrell to form a tremendous duo at cornerback. The number 16 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Arizona Cardinals. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Michigan defensive tackle Kenneth Grant. Defensive coordinator Nick Rallis would have immediate use for Grant inside, putting the gargantuan defensive tackle next to last year's number 27 overall pick, Darius Robinson. With 2023 second-round edge rusher B.J. Ojulari returning from injury, Arizona's front could quickly become imposing. The number 17 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Cincinnati Bengals. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Shamar Stewart, the Texas A&M edge. The Bengals fortify their defensive line and add to their pass rush with this ultra-athletic Stewart. All right, here's one for all you Washingtonians. That's where I'm coming from. Says here the number 18 pick goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Says here they're predicting the Hawks are going to draft Walter Nolan, a Mississippi defensive tackle. Nolan can be very disruptive. He was on display this past season at Ole Miss and during Senior Bowl practices. Very disruptive. The number 19 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Teroa McMillan, Arizona wide receiver. He's Mike Evans' light in size, stature, and play style. McMillan fits into the Bucs scheme perfectly. The number 20 pick in the NFL draft is going to go to the Denver Broncos. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Nick Emenwari out of South Carolina, a safety. Emenwari puts on the show of shows at the Combine, but he also has excellent game tape that justifies the Broncos dreaming of him emulating Steve Atwater and Justin Simmons in the Denver secondary. The number 21 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Jadar Barron out of Texas, a cornerback. The Steelers have a need at running back with Najee Harris hitting free agency, but the defense needs help too. Barron projects nicely as a future starter opposite Joey Porter Jr. The number 22 pick in the draft goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Colston Loveland out of Michigan, a tight end. Head coach Jim Harbaugh has no problem going back to his Michigan roots for good football players. Loveland certainly fits the bill. The number 23 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Green Bay Packers. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Josh Simmons, an Ohio State offensive lineman. Says here a left tackle at Ohio State. Simmons can play multiple positions on the offensive line, helping Green Bay get quarterback Jordan Love upright. The number 24 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Minnesota Vikings. Says here they are predicting it's going to be another Pacific Northwest guy, Derek Harmon out of Oregon, a defensive tackle. The Vikings will have to stop some high-powered rushing attacks in the NFC North if they're going to compete for the division title again. Harmon can help Minnesota control the line of scrimmage. The number 25 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Houston Texans. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Emeka Egbuka, an Ohio State wide receiver. Says here I think he's a clone of another former Ohio State wideout, Seattle's Jackson Smith-Njigba. And Houston needs a receiving threat to help wide receiver number 1 Nico Collins, with Stefon Diggs hitting free agency and Tank Dell recovering from a second consecutive season injury. Not to mention Egbuka caught passes from CJ Stroud at OSU. The number 26 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Los Angeles Rams. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Gray Zabel, a North Dakota State offensive lineman. Zabel can play any spot on the offensive line, but he starts out on the interior for the Rams. Alabama guard Tyler Booker could also get a long look from Los Angeles here. The 27th pick in the NFL draft goes to the Baltimore Ravens. Says here they're predicting it's going to be James Pierce Jr., and Tennessee edge player. Baltimore's mantra is play like a Raven. This Tennessee prospect who blew up the combine fits that to a power T. Says here the 28th pick in the NFL draft is going to the Detroit Lions. They're predicting the Lions are going to take Donovan Jackson, an offensive lineman out of Ohio State. Lions GM Brad Holmes will make sure that his lines are taken care of, and Jackson will look good in Honolulu blue. The 29th pick in the NFL draft goes to the Washington Commanders. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Matthew Golden, a Texas wide receiver. The Commanders' receiver room could be undergoing an enticing makeover with the trade of Deebo Samuel being their first move. Golden would be a tremendous addition, fitting well alongside Samuel and wide receiver number 1, Terry McLaurin. The number 30 pick in the NFL draft goes to the Buffalo Bills. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Donovan Azaroku, a Boston College edge player. This could easily be an offensive weapon to help reigning MVP quarterback Josh Allen, or a player to bolster the back end on a defense like Georgia's Malika Starks. But the Bills' defensive front could use the help too. Azaroku can be a double-digit sack guy in the NFL. The 31st pick in the NFL draft goes to the Kansas City Chiefs. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Josh Cornell-Lee Jr., an Oregon offensive tackle. Something that can become abundantly clear is last month's Super Bowl. Kansas City's offensive line needed addressing, especially at the left tackle position. Cornell-Lee helped himself at the combine. And finally, with the 32nd pick in the NFL draft going to the Philadelphia Eagles. Says here they're predicting it's going to be Jihad Campbell, an Alabama linebacker and edge player. Recent history has shown that no matter where the Eagles pick in the draft, they find great prospects, continue to develop them, and ultimately unleash them on the NFL to great effect. Yes, I know Philadelphia just re-upped to linebacker Zach Bond, but we have the value here for Campbell. A tremendous player with a versatile game, is just too good. He'll flourish under defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. Alright, so there you have it. That's the prediction by Charles Davis, NFL media analyst for NFL.com, the mock draft. What do you guys think? Did you think he got it right? You think there's going to be any changes to all that? It'll be interesting to see how it all unfolds. If you think one of those players might move up in the draft, let me know in the comment section. I'd be interested to hear about your predictions. If you like these sort of videos, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Go on up there, hit that subscription button, ring that notification bell, and make these videos a regular part of your day. I thank you for watching this one to the very end. If you could do me a big favor, give this one a big thumbs up on your way out and leave me a comment. We'll talk to you on the next one. Bye.